Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gave a speech against the Corona bailout bill, the stimulus bill. Let's watch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to our Majority Leader. I represent one of the hardest hit communities in the hardest hit city in this country, Queens, New York. 13 dead in a night in Elmhurst Hospital alone. Our community's reality is this country's future if we don't do anything. Hospital workers do not have protective equipment. We don't have the necessary ventilators. But we have to go into this vote eyes wide open. What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong for crumbs, for our families. And the option that we have is to either let them suffer with nothing or to allow this greed and billions of dollars, which will be leveraged into trillions of dollars, to contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill and the choices that we have to make.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
And I yield.
That was a good speech, but she went on to vote for the bill. I don't think there was a single progressive that we got to vote against it. There were a couple conservatives. There were, the more libertarian, Tea Party-like conservatives, Thomas Massey. One of the things that happened was, I think his name is Thomas Massey, Representative Massey, wanted to get everybody on the record. Said, okay, we're going to have the vote in the House. We're going to do it the right way. I want to see everybody on record. Instead, they didn't do that, and they all went after him. Trump went after him. Everybody went after him in Congress, and they were like, how dare you? How could you? You're going to put all of our lives at risk because of coronavirus. And he's like, first of all, regular people have to go to the grocery store. Nurses and doctors have to go to work. Got many essential workers who are doing their thing. I believe that what we're doing is essential, okay? And also, let's not be weaselly and try to wiggle out of historical responsibility for your actions and for your vote, okay? Because I got news for everybody watching this right now. This vote is definitely going to go down in history in a similar way to the Patriot Act, in a similar way to TARP. This is how this vote is going to go down. This vote is going to be looked at as shameful. Now, I understand the conundrum that AOC and Bernie Sanders and everybody faced. Because, it's a deal with the devil. They say, working families need the relief. Regular people need the relief. They need it. There's no two ways about it. They need it. People can't pay rent on April 1st. This is a national nightmare. You have to get the unemployment out there. You have to get more money to the hospitals. It was in this bill, $150 billion. You have to give people what we hoped was going to be a UBI, but it's really a one-time payment of $1,200. But either way, people need it. You have to get it out there. But what if I told you that along with all that, we're just going to happen to marry the biggest corporate bailout of all time with no strings attached, where the Treasury Secretary and Donald Trump are the ones who make the decision as to which industries get bailed out and don't get bailed out. And there's next to no oversight. An oversight that's just going to be ignored. We'll get to a story on that later. Trump literally was saying, I'm just going to ignore the oversight. So you just gave, effectively, $4.5 trillion to giant corporations. With no strings attached, no accountability, very few rules. You can't fire people rules. First of all, they could fire 10% of their workforce anytime they want. Second of all, that expires very soon. It's 6 months. Within 6 months, they could just mass layoffs. So you just let corporate America loot the Treasury to give crumbs to working people. I know it's hard. I know that in the moment, you're going to take fire for it, but you had to vote against this bill. And I think the thing that's so upsetting about this AOC thing in particular is that she knew what was going on. She saw the dynamic, and she still chose to vote the wrong way. Bernie Sanders knew what was going on, and he chose to vote the wrong way. Now, again, don't get me wrong, because yes, did they make the bill better? Well, yes. Bernie Sanders' amendment, he got up people that make up to $75,000, he got them 100% of their paycheck in unemployment. So they massively expanded unemployment. Good. But what should they actually have done? Because I know a lot of you are watching right now saying, Kyle, come on, they did the best they could. What do you want them to do? What I wanted them to do is, the second it became clear what the terms of the bill were going to be, I needed all the progressive caucus people in the House, or at least the ones who are really progressive, you know, the Justice Democrats, for example, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, Raul Grahava, like all these people, get them all together, say, listen, number one, we can't have this. Also, in the Senate, you need Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, maybe Sherrod Brown, some of the people who are on the left to some extent, get them all together and say, listen, we need a full court press. We need to go all in. In the case of the Senate, they could say, I'm going to block this bill unless you have to split it in two. You have to split it in two. That would have been my move. And I would have absolutely done as many interviews as I could possibly do, get the word out as much as possible, and just say, we have to split this bill in two, have a bailout of the people first, and then we'll get to the terms of the corporate bailout. But we have to first vote on a clean bill for a bailout of the people. We have to first vote on a clean bill of a bailout of the people. That's what you do. Now, why didn't they do that? Because it's hard to organize. It's hard to organize, especially when you know leadership is going to say, listen, if you do this, you're done skis, bro. You think I'm going to do any favor for you in any way, shape, or form if you do this? Because that's what Nancy Pelosi would say. That's what Chuck Schumer would say. They would look at AOC and Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and all of them with disdain. But you know what, guys? And I hope one of them is watching it right now. They're always going to look at you that way. So you might as well show actual leadership and courage. They're going to hate you no matter what you do. Just so you understand. They might pretend every now and then to respect you or get along with you or be nice to you. They don't like you. They never will. So why not show some actual leadership and courage and organization? It's not hard to make the case that she just made. She just said, what are we talking about here? This is a $4.5 trillion bailout of corporate America, which is really just a heist. And this is Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine, namely exploit a tragedy to do what they wanted to do beforehand, which is just total corporate socialism, which is just no matter what, we bail out the wealthy people in the country and the 1% in the corporations. You can make that case. It's not that hard to make that case. So if you guys go out there, I guarantee you the press would try to spin it. Oh my God, they're holding up the much needed, relief for working families. You can control the narrative if you're organized and if you're aggressive. And if you go out there and you say very clearly, we are for the bailout of the people. They are not for the bailout of the people, because really what they want to do is totally change our economy and rig our economy and do corporate socialism from now until the end of time and give all the money and let the rich loot the treasury, and we are the only people who are actually fighting for regular Americans. You can make that case. You can control the narrative. It just requires actual leadership and organization. And they certainly didn't organize, and they certainly didn't show leadership and courage. You know who, funny enough, did show courage? Thomas Massie. Now, again, I don't agree with him on very few things I agree with him. He's a libertarian. He's like a hardcore libertarian, so maybe him and I would agree on some social issues and stuff, he's against corporate bailouts. He's against like all welfare for regular people. I disagree with him on that, but he's against corporate welfare too. And so he stuck his neck out there and he was like, yeah, I want everybody to at least get on the record and you got to vote. And he took fire from everybody. The president was tweeting about him. But that's courage and that's leadership. But he was the only one. Usually in a situation like this, you see a weird alliance of like Tea Party-like conservatives and the progressive left. And on this one, the progressive left was nowhere to be seen. You had Ilhan Omar, you had AOC, you had Bernie Sanders, you had all of them talking about, oh, this is $500 billion of corporate welfare. It's not. It's $4.5 trillion because they could add more to it. And it's up to it's up to Steve Mnuchin, which is disastrous because he's a Goldman Sachs fraud. And he's going to determine who gets the bailout, who gets the money, and why. It's insanity. But they spoke about how they knew how wrong it is, but ultimately they voted for the bill. This is going to be a stain on all of their records. It is. And again, I know that, if they're watching this, they're going to say, what do you know, Kyle? It's easy to talk about this from your comfy studio and when your neck and your reputation and your career isn't on the line. And again, my response to them is very simple. I hear you. It's hard. It's not easy. You're going to take shots. You're going to take fire, not only from Democratic leadership, who are going to make you pay for it, but also from the media, who at first would, talk about you guys as if you're the bad guys. But sometimes, when you stick your neck out there, history views you as the hero. At the time when Barbara Lee was voting against our wars, she was one of the only ones. And people were like, unpatriotic. They threw everything at her. But she did the right thing. She did the right thing. And she probably knew that in the long run she would be vindicated. But the left did not organize. They did not lead. They did not show courage. They just kind of casually went along and tried to make the terms of the bill less terrible. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm sick and tired of a left that always has to compromise away our values. I'm really not interested in that kind of left anymore. I'm not interested in that at all. I'm interested in a tough, loud, aggressive, no-nonsense left that sets the terms of the debate on our grounds and on our terms. That's what I want. Now, we could have had that, but yet again, they didn't organize. They didn't stick their neck out there. They didn't show leadership. No matter what they say, they could have done that. It would have been hard. The media would have came after them. Democratic leadership would have came after them. Who cares? Who cares? Because again, history will judge you kindly. As opposed to now, history's going to judge you just like the rest of them. It's a very difficult thing to, start an insurgent outsider organization and then make sure everybody stays true to those values every step of the way. When we co-founded Justice Democrats, the idea is, no, we are outsiders, and these are the things we're going to fight for. But it's tough for anybody once if they win and get to Congress, all of a sudden you feel like, the loser kid in high school who's left out. And you're like, I'm a human being. I want to get along with people. So it's easy to casually find a way, slowly over time, to tiptoe into that world of standard politics. But when that happens, everybody, to some extent, other people more than others, they lose their core message. They lose their values. They lose what it was all about to begin with. This is why I've always been a strong advocate of the left not only needs to engage in this civil war in the Democratic Party, we have to acknowledge it's actually happening. But at least half of my fellow lefties, they don't want to do that. They don't want to say, hey, we have a democratic civil war, and I'm going to fight for my side in that civil war. They want to play the BS unity game. As if there is a way to bridge the gap between the likes of a real lefty and Nancy Pelosi. There is no way to bridge that gap. There is no way to square that circle. There is no way to get her to get our agenda through. It's not going to happen. She simply doesn't agree with us. She's a neoliberal corporatist. That's what she is. That's it. She'll give you, okay, you want me to agree with you on gay marriage and abortion? Gotcha. There. But, okay, what about all the economic stuff? My donors don't want me to agree with the left on that, so I'm not going to do it. They don't agree with us. So when you talk about unity and you want to get along and you want to be an insider and you want to try to impact change that way, She is more of a Nancy Pelosi does technocracy better than anybody on the left. And she will outmaneuver the left. And she's also in a leadership position, so she has more power. So the only way to overcome in this democratic civil war is to acknowledge we have a battle going on here and overwhelm them. That's the only way. Which means we need these outsiders to go in and remain outsiders and stay true to the mission and take no crap. And you're not going to break me. You're not going to make me fall in line. Not only am I not going to vote for your shitty corporate bailout bill, I'm going to call it out every single day, and I'm going to set the terms in the debate and the discussion. But again, what does this require? It requires organization on the left, and it requires leadership and courage and the willingness to be hated by mainstream media and by Democratic leadership. And as much as I love Bernie, as much as I love AOC, they don't have that in them. And that's obvious now. You don't have it in you to be hated by Democratic leadership and to be hated by the media for the bigger purpose. And that's a shame.